Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Eye of Africa. I am your host, Aina, Fadina. Today we're talking to recording artist Jidenna.
Yes.
Who recently performed at the One Africa tour or concert, which was a life-changing experience for me.
Yeah, it was. It was historic.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was telling everybody backstage that even before the show, because my band is from all across African diaspora. You know, like people, Ghana, Trinidad, Atlanta. So I wanted to make sure everybody knew, like, this is one of the first times this has ever happened. Definitely first time of this magnitude.
Right.
Yeah.
And we just finished the first half of the year, kind of. It's kind of been a pretty impressive 6 months for you.
Yeah.
The White House.
Yeah. No, it's been great. Yeah, we went to the White House a few times, performed July 4th.
Yep.
I recently was on a panel for the First Lady's initiative, Reach Higher. And that was great because we talked to 130 students from around the country, most of whom it was their first time in college, or first people in college, first people in their family to go to college. And it was powerful, man.
Yeah.
So it's been great, but mostly I was in the Cove working on the album for the first couple quarters.
Nice.
Yeah.
When's the release date, approximately?
Whenever the soul clock feel right.
Nice. So you talked about, working with Michelle Obama on that panel for first generation of kids going to college.
Yeah.
What was it like for you growing up in Wisconsin, between Wisconsin and Nigeria? I think you lived in different parts of the country.
Yeah. Well, I was born in Wisconsin. Okay. I moved right back after being conceived. I moved to the place I was conceived in, which is Enugu, Nigeria.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and I stayed there for the next 6-7 years of my life.
Oh, and then you went to Milton Academy, which is like.
Well, it was a journey to Milton. When I came to the U.S., we didn't have a lot of money, so there was a time that we didn't have a home. I lived in this little cabin in the woods with my mom, motel to motel. Eventually, my mom saw that public school that I was in, kids couldn't read, and I was teaching the teachers sometimes. So she's like, let me put you in a prep school. So she made me take a test, and luckily I got in to Milton Academy. It changed my life. It was a college, and it was harder than Stanford for me.
Right.
Yeah.
In what terms, actually?
Well, I think, first of all, the workload was a lot. We're reading 300 pages a night, or you're supposed to, and then you find out how not to read 300 pages and skim through and BS and get your way through school, and that's what we do in life. So I feel like in high school it really prepared me, but I think the other difficulties were just, as you said, when I'm going from public school to this beautiful brickyards and green grass lawn, white picket fence school, where you wear a blazer every Wednesday with khakis. I think the thing that got me through was Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. When I saw him, I was like, yep.
You connected.
Yeah, I'll be able to do it. And I tried to become that guy.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So let's take this back to growing up. I think the formative years of, let's say, 6 and 10. What made you the most happy but drove your parents completely insane? Wow.
I like to think, and my parents attest to this, that I don't think I drove them insane.
Okay.
I wasn't a
rebel or anything?
I was mischievous and clever, so
Gotcha.
I don't get caught for most of the things that I do. I know what made my father angry is when I told him I wanted to be a musician. I knew that by age 10. So that wasn't cool. But I'm mischievous, so I didn't really mention it again until I was well into college and on the way to graduate with a degree in the arts as opposed to a degree in the science.
So you talk about the physical appearance of people.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at your record Classic Man.
Yeah.
Dressing as a classic man, going to prep school, going to Stanford, yet you're walking down the street, you're in your car, you're pulling out your wallet for the police officer. that's still not good enough. How does that make you, like, we can do all the right things,
Yeah.
but still to somebody else's eye, well, that's just that black guy that may have a gun.
Yeah, of course.
How do parents educate their kids, and how do parents have the conversations? Like, we can do everything right, but still.
There's no answer to that. I've seen some town hall discussions on CNN and whatnot, where parents are asking, what more can we do? There's nothing more you can do to inform your child. Like, I can't stand when people are saying that black people are not telling their children how to interact with the police, or like that. It's always the same conversation. Like, we're wild and savage and we can't domesticate our own children. I can't stand those discussions. We're telling, everybody has gotten this discussion, most people. So what more? I think the next step is not necessarily in the household, but it's in the institution of policing itself and the justice system at large. There's not more that a parent can tell the child at all. It's everything has to do with, there's a bunch of things we can do. The office of create an office of police investigation so that the police are prosecuted by somebody other than their friends, which are the DA, which is the sheriff in town. We can't continue to prosecute the same way. We're going to get the same results. Right. There's a million things I could talk about, but there's like, I definitely don't think that it lies all in the hands of the parents at this point. Absolutely. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think it's just another form of excuse not to deal with the problem at the root of the black.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are going on.
Yeah.
And it's not just police brutality, mass incarceration. The amount of prisoners we have in the U.S. compared to the rest of the world is shameful. And we're wasting workers, we're wasting people, and then they come out and they can't get a job, even as a construction worker in a lot of cities. They can't get any job. I mean, why are we wasting people? Right. Like, once you go into prison, you're just branded and X'd out. So there's a lot of things that are on my heart right now and on my mind surrounding this, but I do not think that we should put some of, but not all of the ownership on the parents themselves. I think people are working hard in America, doing whatever we can, and we need to now look at the entire institution and the ecosystem that we've created and start getting these blood clots out of it wherever we can.
As a creative content curator, or because you are creating content, you're creating history, you're sort of telling your stories through, I guess, a form of musical expression. How can we create our own system of distribution? Another
group of society. You said that I don't mention race. I don't think you do either. No, but for those, I understand completely what you mean. And how do we do it? I mean, it's simple. You create the channel, and you tell everybody to come. The world has always worked like that. Moses did it. They followed him through that sea. I don't know. Like, that's amazing back then. He didn't have social media. Right now, I think we just have to pick whatever it is. I think Jay-Z was trying to do this with Tidal. That's from the amazing verse that he spit when Tidal was launched. He was speaking to that point. I think that's the right idea if we really want to have ownership on the distribution level, and not just the content and product. If you look at shipping product, it's you have to own the ship and own the harbor. And we have harbors that span multiple coasts and multiple continents. As soon as we really, and I think we're on the way right now, we understand that we have a bunch of port cities. Right. And I mean this all metaphorically, right? But if we start passing and circulating the content to each other, we'll have tremendous power. I think that's what Nollywood has done. Yeah. And that's why it's such a beacon of hope for other industries. We can't look at Nollywood in of itself. Bollywood did the same thing. And we know Hollywood, of course. Yeah. They're shipping to the entire world. Yeah. That's the idea, honestly, that behind Classic Man, in terms of small businesses, really not being afraid to own and circulate the dollar in the community. We have a larger community. Let's not be afraid to do so in the larger diaspora.
What does freedom mean to you as you stand here today?
Freedom? Freedom means access. Freedom means that when a baby is born anywhere. It doesn't feel like a lottery. Like, oh, we're gonna roll the dice here, folks, and see what we get. It can't be like that. Like that, I'm born in this side of the world in these circumstances, and my parents had, like, I had no say in the circumstances, and now I don't have as much access. So I think when we talk about freedom, we mean just access to opportunities and access to whatever I think a human being needs to find their purpose. Right now we have liberties, but we don't have freedom.
Gotcha. I hate this kind of interview because it makes me think like that is the reality of like the world we live in. I think there's a misconception that we think that we are free. And I always tell friends, and I don't know if, I'm just gonna say this, like I think as Africans, when everyone around you is Black, I don't have the mental shackles in my head of number one being Black, or number two, you know, growing up in a household, I was never, oh, you can't do X, Y, and Z because you're a girl. I was like, wait, my dad legit said, anything I can do, your mom can do better. So when you get older and you realize, oh, there's discrimination because I'm a woman. Oh shit, I'm Black, and then you question me as a model because I'm Black, and then you have to psychologically like put on your coat every single time you leave the house. Like Jidenna Mobisson in her song, I think Yoga, where she said, I wear a crown, but the weight in the world is on my shoulders. Every single day, it's like that sense of like, WTF.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I can only imagine being a woman in a lot of environments that I'm in. Like that's actually, when you're a boy, I don't think you recognize that as much. But when you become a man, you become way more, well, I can't speak for every man. I have become way more compassionate and empathetic towards the struggles of women who have higher qualifications than me in a lot of the things I do, but are always missed out on simple things like greetings. Right. Like if you have a woman of senior management in your company, chances are the men across the room, they're gonna greet the men and think that this woman is, I don't know why, like almost she's like a prop. Right. That's a simple thing, but it happens every day. So I can only imagine. I know for me, it's more the way I've been treated because of race, the way I've been treated when, that's been the predominant thing. You know, even me, despite having certain advantages in life, one of them being we live in a world that values lighter skin. So when I'm anywhere in the world, it's gonna be people that are more likely to befriend me than my DJ and co-producer Nana, right? And I see it. But even me, I've had the abuse of police have thrown me on the hoods of cars, and I've had plenty of things happen to me, my circle, that you know, you could just tell that this is how it is. This is what your parents told you it was going to be. So what dialogue can we create between Black men and Black women around the world? Because I feel like there are a lot of times where Black women feel that they don't have the support of Black men. You know, when Black Lives Matter movement happened, it was by 3 Black women. Exactly. And there are times when they're just kind of like, why do we keep going out there when we don't have the support of Black men? Yeah, you know, the way that I know I'm hoping to seal that bridge and seal that bond that we desperately need is through my vehicle. So it's through music. The album that I'm creating right now, I push myself to write more love songs than I ever have in my life. I never used to write them. That wasn't my thing. You did have a lyric that I was gonna call you out on one of the songs. Oh boy! I mean, I grew up on Fela and like Bob. These were my guys, and there was something about them was like kind of was like tough. You know what I mean? And they were tender and tough, and so they cared about people. They were revolutionary, and they didn't. Bob wrote more love songs than Fela, and they loved humans, right? Or loved people, but I realize now that that's what's needed to actually be revolutionary in pop music coming out of the U.S. at least. And be innovative and to care and to bridge that gap between man, woman, black man, black woman. Writing love songs was probably the best things I could do. So the one song, it was the
The one that was just not. Is it no?
A little bit more.
A little bit more.
Yeah.
What did you sing in that song? You said something about the party might be shallow.
The party gets shallow
Yeah.
the deeper we go.
Yeah, I was like, damn.
Yeah.
I was like,
but you know when you're at that spot and you're like,
I knew exactly what that
yeah,
meant.
yeah.
It's like just like, you know,
that connection. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like intimacy is the greatest fear
Yeah.
right now. This relates like to the conversation we're having about police and black people at large, to man and woman, to black man, black woman, to the whole African diaspora, Caribbean Americans versus West Africans or Africans, African Americans. All that is intimacy. We're afraid to be like, look at each other,
Right.
to stare, unless we're staring in private and spying on people with our phone. So I think that the songs I'm making right now are focusing on connection between people. So that moment where it feels like it's just you and that other person on the dance floor, simple moments like that, those are the moments that I hope to capture and to create when people hear the music. I hope that advances us and tightens us
Right.
all up.
Because I think, I look at the evolution of new music, it's still very much the core of what it is, and I think that's because you're very sure and intentional about your brand or your message or your vision. But I feel like there's a slight shift that's happening.
Oh, how so?
I felt like in the first album there was like an electro funk rap feel to it. And with this one, it's like on this musical worldwide journey. Like I went home, I went to the Caribbean, there was a funk essence, a little that I've heard of the new album. But it really felt like a worldwide sort of, I guess, the journeys of black people around the world. We've trekked.
Yes, I'm glad you said
We've
that.
trekked.
You're right on. You're keen in your observation. It still has electro funk. Definitely songs that lean more there, but all in all, it's a gumbo. It's a pop. That's swank music. That's everything we want. We always want you to feel a certain bounce in every song. But the world element is, if you look at the last 100 years, black people in this country have lived in what we now call the new Jim Crow, and then there was the old Jim Crow, and you were literally not allowed to travel to certain places in the old Jim Crow. Then I look at my father. He was one of those waves of Nigerians that left Nigeria in the 60s during Biafran War, the Civil War. He, alongside a bunch of people, he's following the footsteps of Chinua Achebe and all these men that he admired. They're now traveling to places that their family has never been, and some places they're not allowed to be. Now look at us. We're on Instagram showing everywhere we've been. Like I'm here, I'm in Cabo, I'm in Veracruz, So it's actually a beautiful thing. I think that's why we're so excited, and that's why we share it, and this is one of the beauties of social media. But that feeling of traveling to different places is, to me, it's what we're doing now, and we should celebrate it. And I do feel like my album is a celebration of traveling in different worlds.
Yeah. So the other thing I realized is every show I feel like you pay homage to your father.
Yeah, definitely.
Ooh.
My name is Jidenna, so Jide means to hold or holding, and Na means father. So to hold the father, I believe it's my job to. My father passed a few years ago, so I'm just doing what I would hope would be done for me.
So I know you always give little anecdotes about like what he used to tell you as a kid, but what's the one lesson that you didn't realize what he was telling you, but you completely understand now as a grown man, as an adult?
He used to tell this story about the sword, and he would tell a story about this. He would say, the sharpest, if I have a toolbox, the sharpest sword is the one that is double-edged and it has no handle. Because if it has a handle, it's not the sharpest one in the drawer. So the one without the handle. But the one that people choose is the one that is dull, but it has a handle. You always see these people, they may have more resources than you do. They have a handle. They'll be able to move this knife. But you can't lift it. You have the sharpest one, but you can't even pick it up, you cut yourself. And when I look at the world now, and I look at my life and the journey to be where I am, there's so many people with resources, they don't know what to do with them. Or a certain power, or they've become a celebrity and they don't really know what to do, or that they are role models, whether they like it or they don't like. So, or you're going up in your business and your company, or you're partnering with another company, and you're like, these guys are not sharp, but they have a handle. So that's one lesson that stuck with me as I've kind of traveled through the world.
So as you use that message, as that kind of comes back to you, what is the importance of you narrating that message to your own children? Because that's what we do in terms of African culture, we tell stories through art. And that's why I started this series. Rather than, like you said, social media, blah, blah, blah. What do you hope to be able to pass on to your kids? The message of, being African, being American, like all those different hats that you have to wear as an individual, but yet being human at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I go back to my father. There was a few things that he said to me that really resonated, and I think they can be applied to this question. One is, he said, why does people call you half caste? They say half, you can't be, how are you half? You're not half, you're more. It's like, if anything, you're squared. So don't let people call you black and white. I don't see you have one side black, the other side white. You're squared. So then my father was an engineer, so everything he thought of was an equation.
Very systematic.
So that was applied to me, right? But if you apply it to, a young child growing up right now, anytime somebody is trying to tell you that you're half or you're less than, usually means that you're more. And you may at least be double what they're saying, if not squared. And the reason I know that is because he would say another lesson. He said, why are people mad that they're being used? He said, if you're being used, you're useful. He said, but if nobody wants to use you, you're useless. So why are people mad about this? Black people complain, we are being used. They're taken from Africa. That's because we're useful. That's so every time you go through the life, you realize your value. I got value. Yeah. So now I walk with an extra air of confidence because I know my value. I walk in a room and everybody needs to meet me. Like that's the attitude I go in when you're like schmoozing and networking. But in larger life, I'm going into the world knowing that where I'm from, my people, we have everything we need. People want it, they love it. I can't be mad at people taking. We just have to own, as you were saying, own our channels, and then we'll be able to navigate. As well as as you said, being an African American, as an African in America who also relates to being African American, although having a slightly different story. It's the same thing. It's African Americans have obviously been exploited for years before the country was even born. But it's now a new day where we have to recognize why we're being used, and instead of being used, use ourselves to acquire the power that we deserve rightfully as human beings on this planet. So
that's heavy.
Is it? That's just the shallow end of my mind.
I'm sure.
This is the 3 feet side of the pool.
Not 6. So I'm gonna just maybe make it a little bit lighter. What's your favorite food? My favorite food? I don't have one. I just have it depending on the moment. Like yesterday, I had a really good moi moi from Buka. Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. But like they hooked it up this time. I don't know who the chef was. But it was especially right. It was especially right. So right now that's my favorite. Like I didn't even eat a regular. I didn't get like egusi soup or anything. Like I just ate. Moi moi. Yeah. It's funny. That's my same issue with Lukman. Really? You go there, you're like, why isn't your jollof rice consistent? Yeah. It's like I understand the chef changes, and the flavor of tomatoes change, but dude, like get it right. But when it's good,
it's all about the chef.
When it's good, it's like on point.
Yeah. It was right.
That is. Oh, and then the masquerade.
Yeah.
That seems to be really influential.
Yeah.
In everything that you do.
Definitely. Like I'm always drawing from my heritage on both my mom's and my father's side. My mom was she was an English teacher when she lived in Enugu, and one of the books, she taught about an writer named Oscar Wilde. There was a quote that Oscar Wilde said. He said, "If you give a man a mask, he'll tell you the truth." So if you look at masquerades and the history of Mau and the different masquerades across the continent, the idea of the masquerade was to reflect society. It was to act out a scene, performance theater, right? Performance art, where they're acting out maybe how you should or shouldn't operate. So for me, I do feel that music is a reflection. I try to tell you how it is and how it could be. The having the masquerade on the stage is a natural part of that reflection, man. And I definitely wanted to incorporate what I grew up seeing when I was a kid, and then what I grew up reading with my mom.
Gotcha. How do you remain authentic to who you are? How do you remain authentic to your voice, your lineage, your history, but at the same time being flexible? Because I think that sometimes can be a hard balance for people.
Yeah, I guess it is for people. I don't find it like it doesn't that range of like marketplace to cultural and artistic integrity. That's not a competing conflict in my mind. That doesn't. I'm here in the music business. It's not called music friendship, and it ain't called music in your bedroom. If everyone can make music, but if it ain't for the marketplace, don't put it here and don't complain about it. I know what I'm here to do. I'm shipping product. I'm shipping what I love to do to the world. So I have to always think about how to communicate to the people. It's not about being pop and doing some like candy sweet thing, or things that, I see artists do. I'm like, you're doing that thing right now. Hey, you'll get there, son, you'll get there. But for me, it's I'm communicating to as many people as I can. So that's all it is. If it means I need to repeat this line a little bit more so people really get that in their ear, then I do that. Trap music does it all the time. Repeats the same lines. Thesis, 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 thesis. Over and over again sometimes. And that's the trance that it puts people in. Because I have a background as a teacher, I realized that the importance of packaging your language, your visual language, your directions, and your what comes out of your mouth and what you're teaching. That's where I learned packaging most, was teaching students. They were the hardest people to teach, because they come in at 8 o'clock in the morning. Who knows what happened in their life before?
They had breakfast,
if they had that, or what arguments they saw, or they just don't feel good today, and they just slumped over, and you have to you have to get them excited to learn about Sir Francis Drake, or somebody they have no idea who that is and don't know how to relate to it. So I kind of take all that in and communicate and look at it as communication of what I want to say to people.
Nice. You have any questions for me?
Yes, I do. We'll start with, what is your favorite dish now?
Oh. Okay. So I'm a very bush woman. Yeah. He'll tell you.
Oh boy.
I think my favorite meal ever, I eat a man's portion.
Wow.
It's a Nigerian dish, amalani wedu.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and fried
That's
stew.
how you. I thought you were about to say bushmeat.
Oh no.
I was like, okay, all right.
No, and that's because growing up, my grandmother would make big, bowls, and all the grandkids would sit and I think maybe that's why, but legit, that just feeds my soul.
Every time.
And I like roasted corn and and coconuts.
Yeah.
So I'm I go to produce junctions like chasing the best corn to like
Yeah.
roast. Yeah. So I'm very bush. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like anything spicy is like, you know, Indian, Thai, but it has to have that kick.
Yeah, I understand. A lot of the southern hemisphere of the world has that.
Yeah.
What do you? I know we talked a lot about certain things that are going on in society right now. In fact, we could take it to when we see what happened in Germany recently, what happened in Turkey. What do you? How does it affect your craft and your job? And when you're doing one of the many things you're doing, or interviewing somebody, has that leaned your questions, or have you found different answers from artists?
I think it's tricky because there's some instances where you want to remain. Initially, I started this whole thing. It was literally very narcissistic. Like I have a bunch of fabulous friends in New York, and no one's showcasing African stories through my perspective. But it was very much of like African in New York.
Yep.
And as the world has changed, and as we're all affected by this, and there are instances where like, oh, that's too heavy, let's not talk about that. But I'm like, then why am I doing what I'm doing? You know, so it's like, yeah, you have to sort of, you know, kind of stick towards the script of what you're supposed to say.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we have issues going on. I grew up in Lagos where, you know, 5:30 in the morning, the mosque, they're saying their morning prayers. And then 6 o'clock in the morning or 7:30, the church is like bouncing off with their religious thing. Or Ramadan at my cousin's house. I'm like, okay, we're going to go to Smith and Jollof Rice. And then Christmas at our house. And then to see the world so divided about something that I'm like, but this is not my norm.
Yeah.
So, and I keep saying that, you know, Islam, I was raised Christian, but I'm like, Islam is not, this is not the Islam that I know. And it's not the Islam that the world is showing you either.
Yeah, it's not.
So we have to realize that who's controlling the narrative. And if they want to show you like, this is what Muslims do, it's not. Then look at what Christians did. Yeah. You know, like, let's turn back around, like, well, look at what Christians did.
Definitely.
Look at how they stripped us of our names and everything. So it's kind of a tricky of like, okay, let's not get too heavy, but at the same time, you have to have these uncomfortable conversations and have people react to it, but be okay with the reaction. Yeah. But at the same time, if I'm in the club, don't judge me. You know, like there's all these instances where you have to like, you know, So I think it always changes, and some people don't want to talk about it, and some people are like, oh, okay, we can go there, and, you know, they're able to like shape their narrative in, for lack of a better word, commercial way, so others can actually listen. Because that's a bit, how do we get people to listen to what we're saying? It's not what you say, it's how you say it. It is. It's like, do you want the Kanye approach or do you want the Jay-Z approach to a situation? Yeah. I'm learning that balance right now.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I am as well. That's why I make the music with enough applesauce on it. You can't have a pill and swallow the pill if you don't have enough applesauce.
Well, on that note. It's true. And I'd like to thank Jidenna for today's episode of Eye of Africa. Sometimes I question why I'm doing this and I want this on camera. And every single time it makes sense. You know, I question this decision that I've made and the sacrifices that I've made to make this happen, and reasons like this, and having people that love me and support me and take time out of their day to like support the system. So add that in and I'll do the closing after he leaves.
Thank you for watching this week's episode of Eye of Africa with Aina Fadina. I am Aina Fadina, and today I interviewed Jidenna, an amazing artist, the swankiest man alive. He was exceptional. We had a great conversation, and I'm glad you joined us. Here we go.